He is the chairman of the Environmental Media Association and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. His work has earned awards from numerous environmental groups, and he serves on the boards of many organizations, including the Thoreau Institute and Midnight Mission. He is the Ed in the Planet Green series, Living with Ed, a look at the day-to-day realities of living green with his wife, Rachel Carson. His first book, Living Like Ed, hit the streets in 2008, and the second book, Ed Begley's Guide to Sustainable Living, came out last August. I want to introduce you, Mr. Ed Begley, Jr.
Hi, I'm Ed Begley, and I'm very grateful to be here today at this wonderful summit. And I'd hope to be imparting a lot of wisdom here, but it's quite the contrary. I'm learning a great deal. Last night at dinner with Rich and others, some great minds here in water and many other weighty matters. And Laurent, thank you for your wonderful presentation. You know, I was born in California and grew up there in the LA area, and I'm kind of a nerd. I like all the charts and graphs and stuff, I guess. I was particularly smitten by the map. I had no idea I lived in a red state, not a blue state in California. But it's true. I'm joking, of course. We know he is correct, and I've known for many years that we are a red state as far as water is concerned, and I've done everything I can to conserve water. I'm kind of known for talking about energy-related matters and saving energy, but as we all know, I hope everyone in this room knows, you know, water is related to energy, and energy is related to water. Indeed, it takes a lot of energy to pump water around, and it takes a lot of water to make energy in many cases. So they are greatly related and intertwined. I'm just curious, how many people in this room have seen the show Living with Ed on Planet Green? Oh, good. It's a nice show on Planet Green, kind of a how-to guide with my wife and I. We have a very unusual Hollywood marriage. We have one of the few Hollywood marriages that has a prenup that involves carbon credits. She's very sorry she couldn't be here today. She's still a little mad at me at a gift I got. I got a birthday gift a little while ago. I thought it was a very nice and organic gift, and I thought she'd love it, but no, it was too organic, and it, you know, she didn't like it. It was, I thought, a great gift. It was a hemp thong, and once again, I'm the bad guy. I'm not thinking of her feelings. She is seriously sorry that she couldn't be here today, and we do have a lot of fun. I've had environmental shows in the past. I had one in the 90s called Today's Environment that I never even saw. You know, it was on at 4 a.m., not even kidding, 4 a.m. in the LA market on Discovery Channel, and it was a very dry and factual kind of thing about the environment and saving energy that nobody watched, but with the angle of my wife and I working out our differences on camera about energy and other things and green living, people were engaged by that. A lot of people relate to her, a lot of people relate to me. It's kind of 50-50 across the country as I travel, and that's good because it gets the discussion out there, and hopefully there's takeaways every show, and there's lots of takeaways here at this conference. I'm always amazed when I talk to friends of mine and intelligent people, very bright people in TV and film and many other industries, people in LA that I know and respect, and we start talking about water, and they really don't know where it comes from. They have no idea where their water comes from in Southern California or just about anywhere. They have a vague idea that the Colorado River might have something to do with it, and they don't know that that's just one leg of the stool. There are 3 legs to the stool that support us in Southern California, and if you just even chop off a few inches of one of the legs, we'd be in big trouble, because the only reason we have the kind of growth in water we do in Southern California is because we got our straw dipped in somebody else's drink. And it's been that way for many years. We have the Colorado River, as I mentioned, we have the California Aqueduct, and we have the Owens Valley Project. William Mulholland famously, you know, worked on that canal with many lives lost and lots of people working. In the old days, it was different. It was different than it was today. Labor was very cheap and pipe was expensive, so they put it literally through mountains. The mountain was the pipe. They blasted and dug through by hand, and now pipe is a lot cheaper than labor, and so things are done differently. But it ran downhill from the Owens Valley to Los Angeles and even generated a little bit of electricity in the bargain. So electricity and water have always been intertwined, and I'm known for that, but I have always tried to save energy and always tried to save water. And a lot of people wonder how that started. Just so you don't get scared here, I'm not going to talk for 45 minutes. I'm going to talk for something like 30 minutes. I'm going to take questions for a while, so it won't be too long a rant here. But I started in 1970. A lot of people wonder when I started, why I started. I started because I grew up in smoggy LA. And if you think the smog is bad now, and a lot of people do, and it is bad, it was much worse in 1970. It was very bad in the 50s and 60s growing up. I couldn't run from here to that back door without wheezing as a young man. I couldn't catch my breath, and it was bad. I'm talking about 300 days a year. It was very, very bad. And some days, very bad. You could forget about running. You couldn't sit here in this chair and not be having trouble, pain to just breathe in and out. And that's the way it was. So after 20 years of that, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to do something. And there was a catalyst for that. It was the first Earth Day. And all these people were talking about cleaning up the air, and they talked about cleaning up the water in the Santa Monica Bay, also very, very dirty back then. Still dirty, but it was much worse. And so I went, this makes sense. This is something I'd like to be involved in. And, but there was another element that I think it's important to mention, is because we talk about red states and blue states and the divide that we perceive in this country. But I learned all these lessons about conservation from my father, Ed Begley Sr., who was a conservative Republican, a conservative who liked to conserve. And he taught me to turn off the lights and turn off the water and save string and save tin foil. That's just the way he was raised. He was the son of Irish immigrants. My grandfather and grandmother came over in a boat from Ireland, and my father had lived through the Depression, and so he knew about these things, and he imparted all those lessons to me. And I got it. He got me involved in Boy Scouts. I got to see nature up close and personal, and I liked it. I thought it was worth preserving. So 1970, Earth Day came around, and the most important catalyst wasn't just Earth Day. My dad died just 2 or 3 days before the first Earth Day. So I did it to honor him as much as anything. And I started doing this stuff, because he always said, he said, Eddie, I know you don't like the smog. I know you're against that, but what are you for? I know what you're against. I heard you. But what are you for? What is your solution? What are you doing about it? And that resonated with me. That made sense. So in 1970, I started doing this stuff. And I'll tell you what I did, but before I do, I'm going to tell you what I didn't do. I didn't go broke buying things I couldn't afford in 1970. I didn't buy expensive solar panels in 1970 or fancy, hybrid cars like they have today. They didn't exist back then, of course. I did cheap and easy stuff that I could afford right away. I started recycling, very inexpensive, obviously, got a little bit of money for some of this stuff, started composting, started growing some food with that compost and what have you. I always rode my bike. I rode it even more. I took public transportation before. I took it even more. Other just energy-saving stuff around the house, turning the air conditioner off and, turning off the lights, all that stuff, did it even more. I even bought an electric car in 1970. You heard me right. I bought an electric vehicle in 1970 for $950. When I say car, I'm being quite grand. We're talking about a golf cart with a windshield wiper and a horn, okay? It was a Taylor-Dunn. In case you think I'm making this up, you can go online and take out your PDA right now and check it out. Taylor-Dunn still makes electric cars today. They're really kind of golf carty things. Mine didn't have a steering wheel even. It had a tiller. And many years later, in 1990, I started driving them again. I took one to Bob's house and I plugged it in his place there up in Santa Barbara and got a recharge and made it back to LA. But in 1970, they're quite primitive. No way could I have made it to Santa Barbara. I was hard pressed to make it, over the hill into Hollywood from Van Nuys, from the San Fernando Valley. 20-mile range. It had a speed of about 20 miles an hour. But I liked it because it got me around the valley. It satisfied most of my transportation needs. When I had to go further the other side of the hill, I just took the bus the way I always did, but I could pick up my groceries and I could pick up, and not have to always be on my bike or on the bus. And I could do a lot of things in that electric car. It was $950, and I quickly learned that wasn't a bad price for a car in 1970. It was an okay price. It was very cheap to fuel and operate this car. All the other stuff was cheap, but I bought this electric car, and it was very inexpensive. To fuel it by plugging in the wall was less money than 1970 gasoline. Same way it is today. To plug an electric car in the wall today, still cheaper. 2010 kilowatt hours are cheaper than 2010 gasoline. To go 50 miles in an electric car, it's just cheaper. And it was much cheaper to maintain. Same way it is today. There's no tune-up or oil change or fan belt or radiator flush or smog check or valve job. Very inexpensive car. So I started doing this stuff, and I liked it. I liked it. I liked it because I felt good about it, and I like saving money. And that's the point that I want to make today more than everything. than anything else I say, is we can do this stuff if we do it in the right order and we do stuff that we can afford. And I don't think I know we must afford to do the kinds of things we're talking about in water. We must afford. We have to find the things that we can afford and be very aggressive about that, because a little bit of money spent now is going to mean long-term savings, and we have to do it. You talk about saving energy, and if things get really bad with oil, you know, we can switch over to solar and wind, I guess. There's no substitute. As you heard Loren and others say, there's no substitute for water. You can't switch to a wind turbine when you need water. You can't switch to solar panels. We need water. We need a lot of it. And you have it here, and this is exactly the place where these water-intensive industries should be operating. You know, I'm going to get flack for it back in California, but I'll take it. You know, some of these water-intensive things, there's plenty of industries that should be cited in California, and there are many. But some of these schemes for doing things that require a lot of water, when we can ill afford it in many cases in California, I think that's a bad idea. I think that's a bad idea. Those kinds of things should be done in places like Milwaukee. So it's good for you for the WAVE program and this Water Council and everything that you're doing. It's visionary, and I hope it succeeds. And I'm going to do everything I can to make it succeed. So I started doing this stuff in 1970. The first year I was in the profit amount of money that I could have started doing some stuff. You know, I was a broke and struggling actor in 1970. I couldn't do much. Pretty soon I had enough money to buy a rain barrel to collect some of my rainwater. And that saved me some more money on my water bill. Pretty soon I had enough money to buy a solar oven to cook some meals and cut down the use of natural gas. Pretty soon I had enough money to buy some attic insulation. And I kept moving up the ladder. After 15 years of doing this cheap and easy stuff as a broke and struggling actor, now it's 1985, and I had a series saying elsewhere, so I had some money from other things too. I finally put solar on my house. Not solar electric still, couldn't afford it. It was crazy expensive back then in 1985 and hard to install. But I put in solar hot water, which is, you know, twice the bang for the buck as solar electric, as most of you surely know. And so I put in solar hot water, and it saved me a lot of money. I bought a wind turbine in the California desert, so I know that I can tell you wind power works because I've got a wind turbine that's still pumping out many homes worth of clean green power since 1985, a quarter of a century later. 25 years of clean green power, not just one home, but many homes. It's not attached to my home. It's part of a wind farm, an investment that I bought. I still get checks from them. Talk about a good green investment. You're getting money, doing well by doing good, the way Paul and everybody at A.O. Smith is and has been doing for many years in that wonderful 100-some-odd-year-old American company. That's what we need to do. And you hear lots of evidence of it here today. I just kept doing this stuff. And then 1990, finally, I'd saved enough money to buy solar electric. And the technology had gotten better. And I put it up in my home. When I put it in, they said, you know, now that we're done with the thing, I got to level with you, Ed. I got the money for installing it, but can I tell you the truth? I said, yeah, this is a solar installer talking to me. 1990, he says, you never get your money back from that. Really? Never? Because there's no tax credits back then. This is 1990. There's no federal, state, any kind of subsidies. I just wrote a check and bought this big system, you know. And so he said, you're never going to get your money. I said, never? Never. Never? Not in my life? Well, maybe 18 years from now or something. With no subsidies whatsoever. That day has come and gone. 2008, I went into profit. So this solar system that I have in my home, my kids will have, my grandkids will have, because it's very durable. And there might be some replacement of panels over the years, but so far so good. The inverter's going strong, so I have a good system that's going to last a long time. And I'm planning for the long term. I'm not just planning for me and a good quarterly dividend and a quick return. I want something for the long term for myself and my family, and that's what it's been. And the wind turbine proved to be another good thing. All this stuff that we need to do for the future, and water is key. Water, for me, is so important, and when I moved into my current home in 1988, I was not just cognizant of energy use. I did all the cheap and easy stuff there, the energy efficient light bulbs, energy saving thermostat, all that stuff. But I put in, before they were mandated, I put in the low flush toilets, you know, the low flow toilets, the low flow shower heads. This is in the late 80s, and took out the lawn the day that escrow closed, and it was my house. Get that lawn out of here. You know, I don't live in this part of the country. I live in Southern California. And I don't think I don't need a putting green personally. I'm not a golfer. I have no ruminants that I'm raising. I don't have any cows to graze. So I don't see any need for a lawn. And I put in a beautiful drought-tolerant lawn that is the envy of the neighborhood. And there's none of that water that's, in my opinion, wasted, you know, in that part of the country on a lawn. And the savings were immediate. I looked at the previous owner's bills and mine, and even though I'm growing food on site, and we all know that food requires water. I got some fruit trees and I have a vegetable garden that requires water, is still less than just putting all that water and of course the lawn chemicals and stuff on all that stuff on the lawn. It was less water. Then I went on to the next level. And that's what we're talking about here at this wonderful water summit, that next level, that technology that is cutting edge. And sadly, it is cutting edge what I've done recently. First of all, before I get to the cutting edge stuff, in 1988, I begged them to let me do what I just did 1 year ago. In 1988, within the confines of my property, I took out all my lawn. I was allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. And I did that. But the parking strip, you know, that kind of little area there, that it's city land, but you're required to maintain it. And the way you had to maintain it was with lawn. I said, but can't I please put some rocks or drought time? No, you can't do that. They cited codes and what have you, and they fought me on that till a year ago. This is in LA. And they finally, not only did they allow me to do it, they're encouraging people to do that, to do just that. But it was the same. We had a drought back in the late 80s and early 90s, and somehow they didn't have the vision to do that. But I put that in, so that uses a fraction of the water. Even though I took out the lawn on my property, these strips between the sidewalk and the street, I had to keep grass on, and I put drought-tolerant grass. I did the best I could. But now, finally, that's gone for a year plus with the city's blessing. But then in my home, I finally put in, and this is cutting edge in LA, a gray water system. It was very hard to get it permitted, but I did. And for those of you who don't know what gray water is, it is water from the tub, from the shower, from the laundry room, and from the bathroom sinks. You can't do it from the toilets, of course. That's black water, and you can recycle that water, but it takes a much bigger system than I could put in my home. And also, you can't do it from the garbage disposal, from the sink. There's a lot of organic matter. But all those other things, tub, laundry, shower, all that, you can run that down and you can use it. Now, how are you going to use it? You're going to you have a field out back, you're going to run it out to and not mind the lint that's going to be out on your field and the soap particles and hair. That's not for me. That's kind of a little too organic, you know, living in a yurt in Topanga kind of a thing for me. I have a little more modern kind of a thing going on in Studio City. So I did a system with the following. It takes the water from the tub, the shower, the laundry, and it puts it through a 600 micron filter right away, take out a lot of the hair and soap and, you know, other stuff like that and lint. It goes through a 200 micron filter, even smaller holes, obviously, filtering out even more. Change those about once a week, you know, clean them out once a week. And then it goes through activated charcoal, coal, actual anthracite coal, and it goes through a UV light to kill the bacteria. Then it goes down into a 550-gallon tank where it's stored. And though I wouldn't drink that water is not only safe for ornamentals, I use it on my corn and my tomatoes and all the food crops, and it's pretty clean water. It's what they call purple pipe water. You know, it's instead of a municipal recycled water purple pipe system, it's a residential purple pipe recycled water system. And you mark all the spigots so nobody goes and takes a drink from it, you know. Though, I'll be honest, if I was in a pinch and there was no water running in LA, I'd boil it first in my solar oven, then I'd run it through a little, you know, a Melita filter or something, and I bet you could drink it in a pinch, but I don't want to risk that right now. Typhus is a bad thing. We don't want any of that. But all water is recycled water. We have these people bristle about the term toilet to tap. And I hope we all understand in this room, all water is toilet to tap. And it has been, it really is. You know, water in the mountain stream in the Alps was, you know, there are dinosaurs that interacted with it a long time ago. You know, and in many ways they interacted with it. So we have to start thinking differently about water. When you have a full-scale municipal recycled water system, the water at the end of the process is drinkable. It is, of course, drinkable, and you can, you know, you can use it again and again. But we have to have that kind of care. We have to use less of the water, and we have to clean it and put it back into the environment when we're done. Having said that, you know, what we do with water heating it. One of the reasons I'm so proud to work with A.O. Smith. They have the most energy efficient water heaters out there. They have, 96% thermal efficiency water heaters, standard hot water heaters. They have demand water heaters too, tankless, and they have solar water heating equipment. I've been working with them. It's just great stuff. Keep in mind, when you're saving energy, you're saving water. When you're saving water, you're saving energy. They're very much related. And for years, I used to be up on my roof using a little bit of water to save a lot of energy. That is to say, I'd spray off the panels and use this brush and clean off the panels on my roof. Bill Nye finally got on to me. Anybody know Bill Nye, the science guy? Okay. Bill Nye said, "Why are you wasting water?" I said, "I got to do it." And he gave me this like static cloth brush thing. So now I don't have to use any water to clean my panels. So thank you, Bill, for taking me on to the next technology there. I have very clean panels without using any water. Now I'm using a little bit of electricity to save a lot of water, and that is that gray water system that I'm talking about that works great. All this stuff that I did for the environment, even down to my gray water system, yes, it's been good for the environment, but it's also been good for my bottom line. If we're in it for the long run, and I think we are, I hope we are, we have to, or how are our children, our grandchildren going to view us years from now, saying, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when you went through all that energy that took millions of years to create in the form of coal, in the form of crude oil, and go through in the kind of quick party, a few hundred years since the Industrial Revolution? What were you thinking? And leave us with this mess? They're going to judge us harshly. But there's another way, and that way is through conservation of energy and conservation of water, and leave this place better than we found it. And I'll say this, I'll talk only briefly about that spill, because I'm sure everybody's just sick about it, sick of hearing about it, but everybody's been angry and frustrated. If we don't use this as an opportunity to make changes, if this isn't a wake-up call for all of us to see what's going on there in the Gulf, to the marine life. Keep in mind, 11 men died out there too. 29 people died at Massey Coal recently to give us cheap energy. And if we don't honor that by using the least amount of it possible in any way, what the hell are we doing? People going to foreign lands, really, whether you like it or not, oil is related to our presence in the Middle East to defend that oil, and people are dying over there and on rigs and in coal mines. We have to do everything we can. I can't put my head in the pillow at night without thinking, what more can I do? In World War II, when there's a war effort, people got together and they gathered tires and they gathered, pots and pans that they didn't need anymore to recycle metal and recycle rubber. We need to do everything we can when you see people giving their lives for cheap energy and giving their lives in every way. So I think, to me, that's real patriotism. And whether you agree about climate change or not, I say to this people, because I know there's many people that don't believe in that, I say this, okay, let's put that aside for a second. Let's agree to disagree about that. Do you want to lessen our dependence on foreign oil? Do you want to clean up the air in our cities like Houston, Bakersfield, and LA? And do you want to put money in your pocket? Well, we can do that. Let's all agree to do that today. And thank you. I'll take questions now. Thank you so much. Who has the first question? Back there, young lady.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how much does it cost roughly to put in your residential pipe system?
Hugely expensive. I want to tell you, I'll tell you the number. I won't shy away from it, but I want to tell you first again the way I did stuff. I did the cheap and easy stuff first, and there's a lot of people out there that can't afford a gray water system, but I urge them to do all this stuff today. The energy efficient light bulbs, energy saving thermostat, weather stripping around the doors and windows, bike riding when weather and fitness permits, public transportation, to do that. Then you can build over time the medium ticket items like insulation, and I'm advising people to do it exactly the way I did it. And then, all that, the medium ticket items, and finally, big ticket items. It's $5,000 for this gray water system, but over time, I'm going to make that money back because I'm in it for the long haul. I hope that those costs go down. I expect them to, but for now, $5 grand for that kind of a system. But I think as the price of water goes up, and I just got a wild prediction about energy too. Yeah, I think that's going to go up too. It's going to go up because of, what it costs. A lot of people, we're going to run out of oil. Folks, we're never going to run out of oil. It's like saying you're going to run out of copper, you're going to run out of zinc. It's going to be there in the earth. You're just going to go broke trying to get to it. There'll come a point where it's going to take, 1 million BTUs of energy to get out 1.1 BTUs out of what you expended getting to it. and it's not going to be worth your trip to the store. So it's $5,000 for that system. There's other much less expensive systems out there that you can use to treat your gray water. I have kind of a high-end Cadillac system because I wanted to use it on my fruits and vegetables and things like that. So I got a really nice system, but other systems exist. And economies of scale, as they do more of it, I think the price will go down. It'll be more affordable to more people, but a good question. Yes, ma'am.
Another question about that system. What technology are you using to clean the 400 or the 200, 600 micron screens?
Oh, the 200 micron, it is this filter. It is a big sock. It looks like it's about this big, and it's a big like a sock. It goes in a tubular filter thing, and then I just go and take it in the sink once a week and kind of backwash it, if you will. Go like this and get all the lint and stuff out, lint and hair and soap particles out, and put those in the trash, and that's a 600 micron filter. Then the next one is then the 200 micron filter, do the same thing, and then you have to change out the charcoal, I think, once a year, and the same with the coal. It lasts a pretty long time. Then the UV light, you know, is a certain amount of energy draw, but we've fine-tuned the system. It used to be on 24 hours a day. Now it just comes on when the system is pumping water through, so there's more efficiency. It's all pioneer time, folks. When I first got the thing, my water bill didn't go down that much. My energy bill shot up. I went, what the hell is this? You know, I was doing the other way. I was using a little bit of water to spray my panels in the past to save a lot of electricity. Now I'm using, you know, a lot of electricity to save very little water. The system was not fine-tuned. It was in very short order. Now it works very well. I'm using half the water I did last year. It's right there in my bill for all to see. And my electricity use is, I think it's about flat. I'm not using much more electricity now. I must be saving it in other ways because my electric use is flat from last year. So it's working very well. And the good systems should do that. They should use minimal electricity to save you a lot of water. And after some fine tuning, that's just what it did. Who else has a question, a query statement? Right there, yes, sir.
Did you need to get variations to get a permit for that purple system, or is that something?
Very good question. The good questions all. I had to go and beg the city. I had to go and beg because it's permitted below ground. It's permitted today. You can put in a gray water system tomorrow and have the emitters below ground, but I couldn't do that. It didn't work. The people that had done that, we visited some of those systems and they were all clogged and not working. There's some problem with that. I'm sure they'll work that out at some point, and I understand the city's reticence. They don't want somebody walking by a yard and go, oh, there's some water, honey, go get a drink from that sprayer, you know, or I don't know, you know. They don't want people drinking gray water, and I'm down with that. I understand that. So they were very reticent to let me use it above ground. But we found a way to do that. We demonstrated because ours is a unique situation. It's not your normal unfiltered or slightly filtered gray water. It's cleaner than water in probably about 60% of the world population is drinking. So it's pretty clean. You know, I haven't drank it yet, and I don't know that I'm ready to, but it's pretty clean water, and so it's a pilot project is what it is, the system that I'm using. But you can put it in LA and many other places tomorrow with below-ground emitters, but they just don't want it above ground, and that's a process that's a process right now. Yes, Rich.
Just more of a personal question. One of the reasons people like your show is that because of the occasion stress to your wife over how is the right thing to do, what's right to do. You've been pretty successful in dealing with it. How successful are you going to be when your daughter becomes a teenager?
I'm going to have my work cut out for me. They're going to gang up on me, I think. I think it's going to be 2 against 1. Now, the truth is, at the end of the day, my wife, Rochelle, cares deeply about the environment. She's just not willing to ride a bike to make toast or do some of the stuff that I do. I've got a generator bike hooked up, and so people think I have to ride that to have a piece of toast. I don't. I could do it without that because it all goes to the same solar batteries. But I do have an exercise bike, and I reasoned many years ago, why would I waste that energy? You know, if it's a rainy day or cloudy day, I'm going to ride an exercise bike. Otherwise, I'm going to ride my bike in the street like a normal person. But I wanted an exercise bike, and I figured, hey, why am I wasting that in friction or what have you on this exercise bike? I'll put a generator on the back, and because I already got the solar batteries installed, this is a no-brainer. Just have a diode between it so it's not kicking back and turn it into a motor. I'd have the ride of my life because I got a big battery pack. So just a simple diode, and it goes into the battery pack. And so when you ride it, and when you turn the system on and you're engaged with my battery pack, there's a certain amount of, it's work to do it, I'll tell you. My wife is not as inclined to do that kind of stuff, but she cares about the environment. My daughter is not 100% into it like me, but she's 2 or 3 times as engaged as my wife is on it, because she grew up with it. You know, she's one of those kids, as many young girls and young boys, who are not afraid of worms because they've been around them their whole life. You know, she'll dig her hand in the compost and come up with worms and say, look at all these great worms. And so she, you know, she's been raised in that manner. So I think she's going to be good, but still, to agree with you, there's going to be some challenges. She's nearly 11 now, and there's some long showers going on from both parties.
And we can try to clock her hair dryer for her.
I know. I know. The hair dryer is going to be another one. You know, I took a lot of flack for timing my wife's shower once in the show, which I confess I did. I've had a lot of angry people coming up to me about that. I will only say I've timed it once and once only. I don't even own a stopwatch. The crew was there filming, and they had a stopwatch. So my wife for years has been saying, I do not take a 15 to 20-minute shower. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Finally, give me the stopwatch. Here it is. Bunk. Exhibit A, folks, right on camera. But as if any of you saw the show, I won the battle, but I lost the war. Got to be careful those Pyrrhic victories. You know, what I did also to have a solution to the problem, and I took a lot of flack for this, again, apropos of what you're talking about, Rich, I got tired of hounding my wife about the long showers, so one day I had a solution. We filmed it on the show. It was totally unprepared. This actually happened right on camera as you see it in the show. I'm sawing off my downspout from my rain gutter, and I'm putting this very nice rain barrel underneath the downspout to collect about 50 gallons of rainwater. Right as I'm doing this with cameras on me, Rochelle comes in through the garage, drops her bags, and goes, what the hell are you doing? I said, honey, I'm solving a problem. What are you talking about? I said, the long showers. I'm not going to hound you about that anymore. Here's 50 gallons of water, and so I'm going to, that is the ugliest damn thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I guess it is kind of a garish, you know, orange color. I'll paint it. I don't care what you painted. It looks like hell. Get it out of here. It's ugly. Then we got into it. I said, well, tell me what's uglier, the fish flopping in the mud in the San Francisco Bay Delta? Is that attractive? What about the people in Owens Valley wearing a dust mask because there's no water left? Should we give them designer dust masks? Would that be good for you? So I got my work cut out for me, I'll tell you. If I could just get my own family on board, maybe then I can spread it to the world. Who else has a question, a statement, a query about something I said or didn't say? Very good question. On my wish list, I will tell you now, is going to be fulfilled. It's actually Rochelle's wish, which I realized had a little something for me. I've lived in the 1,600 square foot house, the same size house I was raised in. It's always been very comfortable for me. But I was a single man and a weekend dad. Then Rochelle came into my life, so there's 2 of us living there, and then we had a wonderful little surprise named Hayden, and so now there's 3 of us living there. Again, I'm very comfortable in that size house because my sister and I, my father, lived in the same size house, but Rochelle has been hounding me for years to get a bigger house, and I made it crystal clear in '93 when we were dating. If you want somebody with a bigger house, you know, it's not here. I'm gonna be buried and composted out back in this house. I'm never moving. And I said that for years, 93, 94, and finally in 2009, she wore me down. But in a good way, because I have shown and demonstrated, I hope, what you can do with a retrofit to take a 1936 energy inefficient house and make it as efficient as possible. Now, we're going to do something differently, and we're going to do it on the show, I hope. We're in negotiations to do another show, another season of Living with Ed. We bought a new house. We bought a property to put up a new home, and we're going to do from the ground up passive solar design, SIPs, you know, structural insulated panels, everything, you know, the right south-facing, you know, roof and everything, much more roof space for more solar panels, giant rainwater catchment, like 5,000 gallons, perhaps 10, rainwater catchment and gray water. So I get a lot out of it too, and she gets more closet space. So that's my wish list, and we're going to have it. We're moving to a bigger house, and that will be season 4 of Living with Ed. So stay tuned. Let's see if we survive it. What happens normally when a couple does a remodel? I can't remember. It's fun, right? There's never any problem. Well, the good thing is she and I get along so well to begin with. There's never any acrimony between us. So, it's gonna be a bloodbath. So stay tuned. We actually like each other. I have to remind people, we actually like each other. We're like this nightmare couple. We've gone over to friends' houses and we start playing a board game or something. What are you doing? Are you stupid? Why would you do something like that? We engage each other like that. It's horrible, I know. And then we go out to the car saying, hey, that was fun. Did you have a good time? Yeah, I did. And we get home. We get back to the house. Oh, there's a message on the machine. Hey, are you guys okay? We're fighting now. That was a nightmare. That was horrible. What? No, we're fine. What are you guys fighting? You two, you started us and we were bickering and now it's terrible. We're talking about a divorce. We're fine. Good luck, you guys. We're like Typhoid Mary. We're going around spreading this bitterness around the country, and we're fine. We're somehow immune to it. But it's going to be an exciting 4th season of doing this remodel. It should be good. We have time for a few more questions, I believe. Yes, sir.
My question is around motivation, and obviously you're passionate and motivated about what you believe in around water and energy. What's your thoughts on what it's going to take to motivate most of the other population here in the United States? Is it a government mandate, a space program-like opportunity? Is it going to be money? Is it going to be education? What do you think will be the catalyst for the change?
I think it's going to be a number of things. There needs to be a critical mass of people who are engaged, and I think with the horror that we're seeing unfold in the Gulf, and I think there will be long-term effects. I've always said I hope I'm wrong about all this stuff. I hope I'm wrong about climate change. I'm pulling for Rush Limbaugh on that one. I'm not kidding. I really hope he's right, and all the many PhDs I know are wrong about that one. But I don't think so. But, I hope I'm wrong about, well, I think I'm right in that people are going to be engaged. I think people have started to see the consequences out there in the Gulf of, of our appetite for oil. And though there should be, and I know there are ongoing investigations, what BP did wrong in Transocean and Halliburton, and that should continue. I'm not choosing to be part of that. But what is our role in it? How much energy can I still, me, Ed Begley, continue to save? How much water can I continue to save? There was a wonderful ad on the back of some environmental magazine in 1989 when I went into this next level of next wave of like really, I didn't buy gasoline at the pump for many, many years after this. In the end of 1989, after the Exxon Valdez that occurred earlier that year, the ad it had a picture of Captain Hazelwood, the skipper of the Exxon Valdez, and it said, it wasn't his bad driving that caused this spill, it was ours. I went, ooh, okay, that's pretty good. And so I stopped then buying gasoline at the pump from 89 till 98. When I say stop buying at the pump, I still had my share of gasoline on a Greyhound bus or an Amtrak train or whatever way I was getting around. And I drove a natural gas vehicle starting, well, that was about 98 too. But I just wasn't buying gasoline at the pump. I got around exclusively with public transportation, electric car and a bicycle and stuff like that from 89 through 98 to kind of prove a point. And so it was that thing that did it. I think this Gulf is going to be a catalyst for a lot of people. This Gulf incident will be a catalyst for a lot of people to do more, to really examine, what can I do? What can I do when people are dying on oil platforms and elsewhere so we can have cheap energy? What can I do to really value that even more and honor that and to use less of it? And I think there's a lot that we can do. There's tremendous efficiencies out there. We're talking about them here in water. We're talking them around the country in energy and kilowatt hours and crude products and all the refined products that go with it. So I think we can do a lot more, but I think the time is now. I hope it's not when and if, and again, I hope this does not happen, that sea level does start to rise in lower Manhattan or Florida, parts of Florida. I hope that doesn't happen to the Marshall Islands or anybody, but it is possible. When you see ice going off land into the water, as it is now in Greenland and elsewhere, ice that is in the ocean will not make sea level rise. It's like an ice cube in a glass. The ice melts, it doesn't get any bigger, but ice that's on land, you put some ice cubes on the rim of a glass and watch them melt, that level will go up. And now that there's a lot of ice in Antarctica and Greenland that's starting to melt, and you just go to Glacier National Park, you go to Alaska as I have and see the receding of those glaciers, I think And again, some people say, oh, this is a natural cycle, it's happening. Again, okay, why would you put a febrile patient in a sauna? Why would you then take a patient who has a fever and put them in a hot place? Why would you add to it with more of that, even if it's some axis, you know, tilt to the Earth's axis or sunspots or whatever other people are saying? Why add to it?